I'm Thinking of Ending Things came out back in September on Netflix, and before the end of the year, I'd like to review a few 2020 movies that I originally missed reviewing. And one of those is I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which is a super long title to write out and say, so I won't say it all the time, but back in sometime in September, not on the exact day, I watched the first, I'll say 10-15 minutes of the movie, and then then my dad came home and he said, do you want to watch another movie? I was like, sure. So I never actually finished it, but I went back and I watched it today, and let's just say I have some pretty interesting thoughts on it. And spoiler warning, because there is a lot to talk about. Charlie Kaufman is a really interesting guy, and as some of you may know, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is one of my favorite movies of all time, which he wrote. It's a romantic movie, romantic drama, but it has a sci-fi spin on it that makes it interesting, and it's weird. And I also love Jessie Plemos as an actor, so I was really excited here. And, well, there's a lot to love here, but there's also a lot I didn't like. I'm Thinking of Ending Things is definitely a layered film, but it manages to get too convoluted in the process and doesn't end up telling a proper story. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking that I don't like movies with ambitious endings and stuff like that. Ambiguous, ambitious, I think it's the same thing, endings and stuff. Well, my favorite film of last year was actually The Lighthouse. So I think that says enough right there. That's a weird movie, but this one actually warranted everything that was in it, in my opinion, whereas this film, I'm Thinking of Ending Things, didn't. My biggest problem I had with it is that I felt no purpose with the film. It's kind of how I felt about Midsommar. Now, I do think this is a much better film than Midsommar. I just didn't see a point in it. I understand that the young woman, whatever her name is, because they give her a million names, she's credited as young woman, I think. Jessie Buckley's character is the whole, as I said, spoilers, she's in the imagination of Jake when he's the janitor, when he's older. Like, the film doesn't tell you that, but you get that. But there are just so many things, like, why did they break into dance at the end? Why does Jake get mad every time he talks to his parents? Why is Janitor Jake walking with the animated pig that we heard a story about before? Do you see a common theme here? It was just so absurd, and I felt like the movie almost felt like it needed to be, or else people wouldn't like it. And I know I'm in the minority here because tons of people say this is their favorite film of the year. I just personally didn't see it. A common thing I've heard is people saying, oh yeah, you need to see it a second time to fully appreciate it. But why should I have to watch a movie twice to like it? Now, I get if you have to watch a movie again because there are plot points or something you don't understand. Like, let's say, for example, Inception. That makes sense because there's stuff inside of it that you have to get. Whereas this one, it was so weird on my first viewing that I don't exactly want to see it again. I feel like it won't be explained the second time I see it. With all that said, though, there are some pretty great elements with the film. Jessie Buckley is outstanding here. If she gets a nomination, I can definitely see why. She seemed just as confused as us for a majority of the film, which makes sense, seeing what her character goes through in this movie. And I really liked her narration here. That's a really hard thing to achieve, is good narration. Narration that doesn't feel forced. But I think that she did it really well here. Jessie Plemos, or Plemos, I'm going to say Jessie Plemos, is also really, really good here. I love and hate him in Breaking Bad as Todd in El Camino 2, and he is hilarious in Game Night. The thing with him, though, here is that I think his performance was really good. It was just the writing of his character that took away from it. And that's a problem with your movie, is when the writing of a character takes away from the performance. But I think his performance alone, despite what I think of his character, his performance was really good. Toni Collette and David Thewlis, Professor Lupin, that guy, were just so weird here. I mean, they were good because they achieved this weird feeling, except I didn't really like their characters, so I can't be too positive on them. I think for what they had to do, they achieved it. They gave this really strange, odd feeling. It's just I didn't particularly like their characters, like the writing of it, and I didn't love the scene that they were in. That's not their fault though. That is completely the movie, not in them at all. Trust me. I love the colors here as well. It definitely added to the film and it gave that chilling feeling. Kaufman nailed the feeling of isolation and loneliness that Jake as the janitor was feeling when he came up with all of this stuff, and I really appreciated that. The editing was very off-putting at times, and that was on purpose for sure, and it worked at times, especially in that dinner scene, but man, some of these scenes went on for way too long. My dad came in when I was watching the movie, and I was only like 5 minutes in, and he sat down, I was surprised, and actually watched the rest of it with me, and out loud, we both said, especially him, so many times, what the hell? Wait, what? Because the movie was just so weird, or like, he looked back and he's like, this is so weird, just because it is. And I just don't know with this movie. I was entertained though, I will admit. It entertained me through the whole thing. As I said, some scenes do go along for a bit too long, and some of the monologues you just, like, you could probably skip over, not really miss anything, which is not a good thing when it comes to a movie, but I was entertained. I'm Thinking of Ending Things is easily the film I feel most mixed on this year. It features 2 great leading performances, some beautiful cinematography, and an interesting experience. I just felt it didn't warrant being that weird, and I felt like the film had no true purpose. It had some good elements to push it to that positive grade, but just barely. I'm gonna give I'm Thinking of Ending Things a B-. You'll see on my end of the year list that this film will go above some films I've given a B to, and that's just because, you know, there are a lot in it that I like. I do like a lot of this film, but I also dislike a lot. When it finished, I was honestly thinking of giving it like a C or a C+, which is a negative grade in my eyes, just because I don't know. It's one that I doubt I'll ever watch again by choice. I always say by choice. What I mean by that is that if I'm watching this to study it in a class, say in the future for film, something like that, or I'm, you know, I just wouldn't put it on while I'm watching it by myself. I think that makes sense. It was so weird. It just didn't make sense to me. You know, the scene where it starts dancing at the end, and then there's the musical. The whole ending was so weird. There were some cool details. I liked how you see I'm pretty sure I'm right on this. You see the little ice cream logo on one of the janitor's things at the start, and then of course they go to it in the second half of the movie. It's just so weird, and if you ask me what happened in the movie, I'd say, well, she went on a road trip, met the parents, they went crazy, but they didn't actually exist, but then she didn't, and then they drove, you know, to get ice cream, then to a school, and then nothing really happened that made sense in the film, which I get was the point of it. I get a lot of people like this movie, and no shame on you if you don't. I'm happy for you that you like it. I wish I did. It was disappointing in that way, but it was good enough to warrant a positive grade. But if you've seen this movie, let me know what you thought in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Over and out.